Gina. Today I am going to show you a Facet jewelry box that is a new subscription box available from facetjewelrybox.com, and I will put a link in the description box below the video, as well as I will put the website in caption on the video here. Now, Facet Jewelry Box offers complete kits for 2 complete projects. Now, you can choose between a stitching project, which is a little bit more involved, or a stringing project, which is faster and easier. Today on this channel, I am going to share with you a stitching project box. I will also share a stringing project box on my beginners channel, which is GGC's Beginner Beaters. And I will put a link for that channel and for that video in the description box once that video is available. But I will go ahead and put the channel in there so that you can find it easily and then be notified when the video comes up, because I'm going to be doing these one after the other, but not necessarily get them up right after each other. So anyway, the Facet Jewelry Box is a subscription you can get monthly. Starts from around $23 to right around $25, and that depends upon the subscription you choose, the length of time you choose for your subscription. Now, this box is the one that I received for the stitching project, and I'm going to show you what's in it. It's really nice. Comes nicely mailed, nicely packaged. It's very professional looking. And this particular project is going to be a collar necklace. It comes with instructions, and they're very nicely done. You can see this one is also going to include some earrings that you can do to match the necklace here. And here is a full picture of the necklace itself. And I will be doing that first, and then I'll do the earrings. And it comes with all the pattern, all the instructions here. And inside this box, there's a little emery board. There is some fireline. This is smoke fireline. And then this is the package for the necklace. And what is inside here is everything you'll need to make the necklace. They're all labeled very nicely. So here are some 3mm bicones. These are the findings, because this particular necklace you will add chain to the back. So here is the clasp and the jump rings. Here is a size 12 beading needle, Miyuki 8-0 seed beads, Miyuki 11-0 seed beads, and it looks like it's kind of an emerald olive type green color and silver. And then, of course, some chain for the back of the necklace. And then for the crystal drop earrings, let me put these aside so I don't mix them up here. And each package is completely labeled so that you can see which one you're opening, of course. This one says crystal drop earrings. And in it, I have some crystal drop beads here. And it looks like a few other of the smaller parts of the beads. So it would be the round beads here and the crystals. 15-0 seed beads, Miyuki. Here's the wires. So here's the wire and the ear wires. And here is a size 12 beading needle. I'm going to put this stuff back in here. What I like about this already is that it's a kit that actually has beads that we normally, as avid beaders, use. It has Miyuki beads, and it uses nice findings and fireline, things that we actually use as beaders. Whereas a lot of times you'll get these subscription boxes and they have beads and findings and things in it that we don't always prefer to use. Anything is fine. You can use anything and be creative with it. But most of us have our preferences, and these are the type of beads that we prefer, and they are included in this kit, which makes it very nice. So I am going to go ahead and lay out my beads and get things ready to start the necklace, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have gone ahead and laid out my beads. I have my 8/0s here, my 11/0s here, and the little bicones here, which I won't be using for a little bit. And I have just set aside my findings and my chain. I have gone ahead and threaded onto my needle some of the 6-pound Fireline in the smoke color that was included in the kit. I went ahead and put a wingspan of thread onto my needle. A wingspan is when you hold your arms out straight across like you're going to fly away on either side of your body. Measure from fingertip, the length of your first arm, across your body, the length of your second arm to your fingertips. That is one wingspan, and I have put that on my needle. You will need to extend your Fireline or tie on during this project. If you don't know how to do that, on my GGC's Beginning Beaders channel, video number 4, I have a video that shows you how to do that. Now we're going to start by looking into our book here and see what we need to do to start our first round. So this is for the earrings. I'm going to go to the necklace because that's what I'm going to do first. So on a comfortable length of Fireline, pick up an 8/0, 11/0, 8/0, and 11/0 and sew through all the beads again to form a ring, leaving a 6-inch tail. Continue through the first beads and exit an 8/0. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 8/0, an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0 seed bead. Be getting a little closer here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take these 4 beads and I'm going to bring them to the end of the needle or end of the thread and leave about 6 inches for my tail. I'm going to come back through the first 8/0 seed bead and pull these into 1 unit of right angle weave, like so. Then I'm going to sew back through all 4 of these beads, 1 bead at a time, to retain the shape of my stitch. Now I'm going to show you how to do right angle weave doing this, but if you do not know how and you get a kit, whatever stitch it is that the kit is trying to show you how to do, they have references, tips on what you can do to learn the stitch. They have videos and different links that you can follow in order to learn the stitch. So what I have done is I've sewn all the way through my 4 beads here, and now I am going to sew through one of these 11/0s, the one I'm next to of course, and then into an 8/0. So that I am now positioned, I've secured the first stitch, and now I am positioned to begin right angle weave going this direction. So now that I have exited it, I'm going to read you the directions just so you can see how they flow. It says, working in right angle weave, pick up an 11/0, 8/0, and an 11/0 in each stitch to make a strip of 53 stitches long. This will be row 1 of the beadwork. So, to begin my right angle weave, each stitch of right angle weave has 4 beads. However, you're only going to pick up 3 after the first one because you will always share a bead in the previous row. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. And then I am going to go back into the opposite side of the 8/0 And then I'm going to sew through my stitch again. Normally, and what the directions probably are if you were to learn right angle weave from some of their links and such, would be just to go through the next 11-0, up through the next 8-0, and start your next stitch. I prefer, especially with 6-pound fire line, to go around my entire stitch and then begin my next stitch of right angle weave for 2 reasons. Number 1, it will give you a more secure, stronger finished piece. And 2, with 1 needle right angle weave, the stitches can get quite messy unless you sew through them again. So I'm going to sew through mine again. Now I have plenty of fire line in my stash. I believe that there's probably plenty of fire line on this little thing that they include to allow you to do this. But if you do not have your own stash of fire line, you may want to just go through it once as they recommend. For me, I'm going through the entire stitch again. And then I'm going to go up through this 8-0 seed bead here. And then I will start my next stitch. So I have 2 stitches of right angle weave. I will pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0. And I will share this 8-0 here as my 4th bead. And see how it can get kind of messy looking. So what I do is I just sew through the beads I added again, one at a time to retain the nice right angle weave shape. So I'll go through this one here, through here. And if you're not going to sew through it again, this is where you would start your next stitch. You just go through the 11-0, the 8-0, and be ready to start your next stitch. As I'm securing, I am going to go ahead and go through again. And you will see when I finish my stitch how much neater my stitch will be because I sewed through it again. And now I'm coming through the 8-0. And now you can see my stitch is nice and neat. And we will do this one more time. An 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0. Go through the opposite side of the bead you're exiting from and bring these beads down into your next stitch. Then I will sew through this 11-0 and through this 8-0. If you're not doubling your stitches or your thread through your stitches, then go ahead and begin your next stitch here. But since I'm doubling it, I'm going to go ahead and go through this 11-0, this 8-0, this 11-0 here, and back up into my 8-0. I'm going to continue doing this stitch. Let's see, it said to make it 53 stitches long. So you will just count, as you can see, let me get you closer to my beadwork, as, not that close perhaps, as you can see, each one, it's a little blurry for some reason. I'm sorry guys, I do not know why my camera is blurring. It doesn't usually do that. Sorry about that. Anyway, you can see right in the middle of these 2 11-0s, there's a little opening. Count that for each stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to make my next stitch and I will be back. Once we have the amount that it calls for, which is 53 stitches, we'll be back and we'll do the next step. Okay, so I have made my 53 units of right angle weave, as you can see, and there they are. And I'm coming out of my last 8-0 seed bead after making my last unit and securing it. Now it says, this is row 1 of the beadwork. With the thread exiting the 8-0 seed bead, pick up 8 11-0s, sew through the last 8-0 again to form a loop. So we're going to pick up 8 11-0s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got, oops, 8, not 7. I've got my 8 11 O's on my needle here. I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead in my last unit of right angle weave. I'm going to sew through the opposite side of the bead I'm coming out of and pull these 11 O's into a loop. And then it says, retrace the thread path through the loop and secure, through the loop to secure. So all you have to do is go back through, and there are illustrations showing these things too. So I'm just going to go back through all of these beads to secure it. And then back through the 8/0. And personally, I'm going to do that one more time because I know that my chain for my necklace is going to hook onto this. And I personally believe in securing things really well, especially when using 6-pound fire line, because some of the heavier weights are a little bit stronger. So I'm going to go back through again and then exit my 8/0 seed bead. And that's just a personal preference. I'll straighten out my beads. And now that I have sewn back through to secure the loop, sew through the adjacent 11 O's in the last right angle weave stitch. Pick up an 11 O and sew through the corresponding 11 O in the next right angle weave stitch. Repeat this stitch to the end of the row and snug up the beads so this edge curves slightly. So what we're going to do basically is we're going to, now we're coming out of this 8/0 seed bead, we're going to sew into this 11 O right here, the 11 O adjacent to it. Then we're going to pick up an 11 O seed bead and we're going to go into the next 11 O seed bead. So I've got my 11 O, I'm coming out of this 11 O, I'm going to go into the next 11 O. This will pull the necklace in together and curve it slightly for the top collar part of the necklace. So I'm coming out of this 11 O, I'm going to go into the next 11 O. And I'm going to continue putting an 11 O between the 11 O's on this side of my stitch until I get all the way to the end of my weave. So I'll continue doing this all the way to the very end, and then I will be back. Okay, so I have put 11 O between each 11 O on the top of my beadwork here. So now it says, if you pull tightly, you'll see, if you're pulling it as you go through, you'll see that it just kind of curves up like this. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is, let's see, snug up the beads so the edge curves slightly. So grab your working thread and just snug them up enough to where you get a nice little curve. So it's nice and neat. It's not bunched up. It's not so tight that it's makes a funny shape. Just enough to where you get a nice gentle curve, like so. And then it says, tie a couple of half-hitch knots to secure the beadwork. For this knot, pass the needle under the thread bridge between the two beads and pull gently until a loop forms. Sew through the loop and pull to draw the knot into the beadwork. This edge will be the top of row 1. So of course this is pretty easy. We're just going to tie a knot between the two beads here. So I'm coming out of the last 11 O. There's a little thread bridge between this 8 O and the 11 O. I'm going to make sure that my beads are snug to the curve I want, and then I'm just going to go underneath this thread bridge here and pull my thread into a loop, trying to avoid pulling my tail into that area. Then I'm going to go through that loop and pull it down. And then I'm going to make sure that I didn't deform my beads at all. I'll snug it up too much here. And then I'm going to go through the 8/0 seed bead. We could tie another knot there, but I don't see any point in doing that. It's fine. I'm going to go up through the 8/0 seed bead, and it says sew into the end 8/0 in the first stitch, which is what we just did, and repeat step 3 to make a loop on this end of the row. Step 3 is when we pick up 8 11/0 seed beads. So we'll now pick up 8 11/0 seed beads, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 11/0 seed beads, and I'll go into the opposite side of the 8/0. Get that tail out of the way, and pull these down. For some reason my needle doesn't want to pass through one of these beads, so let me pick up another one, an 11/0 that a 12 won't pass through. And this is why I prefer Toho, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. And now we're going to go through the opposite side of this 8/0. And then I'm going to sew back through all of these beads. Again, to secure this loop that we're creating here. And like I did before, I'm going to go through that one more time just to make sure that it's actually strong enough to be a connection to hold the back of the necklace on. And then back through my 8/0 and pull this into shape like so. Make sure that it's not curved too much. I think it should be okay. It's hard not to really pull those out of shape. There we go. And now, let's see. Gotta find where I'm at on my directions here. Sew through the beadwork to exit the 11/0 at the bottom of the 3rd stitch of this row. So I'm going to sew through my beadwork until I can come out of the 3rd stitch. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go through this 11/0 here, and then I'm going to go up through this 8/0. So just want to travel through my original stitches. So I'm going to go through this 11/0 here, and then I'm going to come out of this 11 or 8/0 here and go into this 3rd 11/0 on the bottom here. So 1, 2, 3, I'm coming out of this 11/0. And now that I have sewn through to exit the 11/0 at the bottom of the 3rd stitch on this row, I will work a second row of 49 right angle weave stitches off the bottom 11/0s in the first row and end in the first row, end and add a thread as needed. So just add thread as you need it, basically. So if you need to know how to add another row or whatever, there are some tips here that tells you where to go to learn your stitches. So what I'm going to do here is I'm coming out here, and I am going to sew through the beadwork to end at the bottom of the 48th stitch in this row. So I'll go all the way over to here, and then I'll have 3 stitches on this end left over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right angle weave from the bottom of this stitch. So I'm going to pick up I'm coming out of 11-0. I'm going to pick up an 8-0 this time, an 11-0, and an 8-0. So instead of two 11-0s, this time you have two 8-0s. You're going to add your fourth bead by going through the bead that you're coming out of. So we're going to go through the opposite side of this 11-0 here. And then we're going to sew through this unit, this first one, just to secure it. Probably won't have to sew through every unit like I did on the top, but I am going to this one because it just needs to be neater than it is. So I'm going to sew through this. And then in order to make your next row, you're going to use two beads that are on your work. So we'll use this 8-0 and this 11-0. So I'm going to sew into this 8-0 seed bead so that I'm in position to make my next unit. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I'm going to use this 11-0 and this 8-0. So all I need is an 11-0 and an 8-0 to complete my 4 beads. I will go through this 11-0 on my work. Then I will go through the 8-0 here. And now I need to get over to this 8-0 to use this 8-0 and 11-0 for my next stitch. So I will stitch through this 11-0 here. Then I will go up through this 8-0. Then, now that I'm coming out of this 8-0, I will hook up into this 11-0 here. And now all I need to do is add an 11-0 and an 8-0, like so. Let's get in just a little closer so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm coming out of this 11-0 here. I've got an, I need an 8-0 and then an 11-0. And then I'll come up over and through this 8-0 and this 11-0. You can do one at a time if you'd like. And now I need to get to this 8-0 to add my next one. So I'll go down through this 8-0. So basically adding a right angle weave to an existing row of right angle weave, you will just need to look at what direction you're coming out. So I'm coming out now through the bottom of my work. So I know I need an 11-0, and then I know I need an 8-0, and then I'll go up through the 11-0. So I am going to pick up an 11-0 and an 8-0. I'm going to connect to this 11-0 here, and then I'm going to go down into this 8-0 that I'm connecting to on my previous unit here. And now I need to sew around to this 8-0 so that I can do my next stitch. So basically it's just sewing through the work and adding the beads you need to make your next stitch. So when you're coming out of the top, you'll go into the 11-0. When you're coming out of the bottom, you'll have to pick up beads and then go into the 11-0 and the 8-0. So now I'm coming out of the top, so I'll go into the 11-0. And then I'll pick up an 8-0 and an 11-0 and go into the 2 beads that I just came out of to finish my stitch, like so. And now I need to sew into this 8-0 so that I'll be coming out of the bottom, and I'll add my 2 beads that I need. So I've got to come out of this 8-0 here, snug up that stitch. Coming out of the bottom now, so when I come out of the bottom, I'll pick up an 11-0 and an 8-0. I'll go through this 11-0 here, and then through this 8-0 here, and then I have to sew back to the 8-0 here to make my next stitch. So I'm going to sew here and then here. I am now coming out of this 8-0. I will go into this 11-0 and I will continue. Now that I'm coming out of the top, I have to pick up an 8-0 and an 11-0. Go into these 2 beads that I just came out of and complete my stitch. And I will continue doing this all the way until I get to the 48th stitch here. So I'll have 3 stitches on this end left over, the 11 seed beads, when I'm done. And we will be back when I get to that point. Okay, so I have finished my second row. I'm ended right here. And now it says sew through the beadwork and exit the 11 at the bottom of the 48th stitch in this row. So actually I'm over here. This is the end I ended on here. And I'm coming out of this 11 or actually this 8 after finishing my stitch, but I'm going to sew through this stitch here until I come out of this 11 here. So the second one here, and then I'll be ready to start my next row. So I'm going to go through here. I'm just going to sew through this stitch like so, down through this 8 here, and I'm going to come out of this stitch right here, or out of this 11 excuse me. And I'm going to start another row of right angle weave. So I'll pick up an 8 and 11. It says work a second row of 49 stitches to the bottom of the 11 Oh, I'm sorry guys, I have to go to row 3. That was row 2. Work a third row of 47 raw stitches. So now I'm just going to work out of these 11 just like I've been doing. I'll do a couple stitches for you until I get to the 47th stitch. So, or until I've created 47 stitches. So I've got an 8 I'm coming out of this 11 so I'm going to pick up an 8 an 11 and an 8 and I'm going to create this row exactly how I created the one above it. So I'm just going to go back into this 11 on the opposite side from which I'm exiting, and then I'm going to come up through the 8 here. I'm going to actually go ahead and secure this first stitch again completely around. I just think it makes it so much neater and so much easier to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and secure this entire stitch. And then I will start working the rest of my row out of this stitch. So I'm going to come down into this 8 here. Pick up an 11 an 8 and go into this 11 on my next stitch and into the 8 that I'm coming out of. Pull that around, go up into so I'm coming out of this 8 now. I'm going to go into this 11 here, and then into the 8 here and the 11 here, and just continue making rows of right angle weave until I get to the number that I need in this row, and we will be back. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay, so I finished my third row, and now it says work a fourth row of 39 raw stitches. Sew through the beadwork to exit the 11 at the bottom of the 34th stitch in this row to get into position to add the fringe loops. Okay, so first I have to make one more row here. So I need to work a fourth row of 39 raw stitches. So I am coming out of the bottom here, I am going to sew over to this 11 seed bead here and start my next row. So I'll just sew through my work like it says. Just go up through here. And I'll just sew through my original stitches until I get over to the 5th 11 seed bead on the bottom here. So this one is now the 3rd. Go up here. And you can look at the diagram on there too and count the beads over. So like I'm looking at this, and I've made these 3 rows here. This is the row I'm going to start, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the edge. So that's how I'm looking at it. So if you don't understand the words or you're a little confused, then all you have to do is look at the diagram. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I am in position to start the next row, and I will go ahead and pick up my seed beads and start a row of right angle weave here. And like I always do on my first stitch, I'm going to go ahead and sew through it again just to make it neat and secure. I can go through this 11-0 here and go up through here, and then again I will begin my stitches and work a row across until I get to the same amount. So I'll count 5 over this way and stop on that one, on the 5th one on the other side of my necklace here. So I'm going to go ahead and continue and make this row until I get to the 5th 11-0 seed bead from the edge here, and I will be back. Okay, so I have finished my 4th row, and then it says sew through the beadwork to exit the 11-0 at the bottom of the 34th stitch in this row to get into position to add the fringe loops. So I'm going to sew until I am 6 beads over here. So I'm coming out of this little 11-0 seed bead right here. I'm going to sew back up into my work into the original right angle weave stitches and sew my way over until I exit the 6th stitch from the outside of this row here. So this is what I'm calling the outside. So I'm just going to keep going here. And this is the 4th stitch. This is the 5th stitch. And right here, I will start the next step. And the fringe loops say pick up 6 11-0s and an 8-0 and sew through the 11-0 your thread exited at the start of this step. So I need to pick up 6 11-0s and an 8-0. Let me see, make sure. 11-0, 34. Yep, 6 11-0s and an 8-0. So I have 6 11-0s and an 8-0, and then I am going to come back through the stitch I'm exiting from here and pull. And then it says to sew through the beadwork and exit the 11-0 at the bottom of the next stitch in row 4. So what I have to do is sew through this stitch. I'm coming out of this 11-0, so I'm going to sew through this next stitch until I come out at the bottom of the 11-0 right here. So now I'm coming out of this stitch, and it says to pick up 3 11-0s, a 3mm bicone crystal, and 3 11-0s, and sew through the 11-0. So 3 11-0s, a bicone crystal, and 3 11/0s, and then sew through here again back into the opposite end of the bead I'm exiting from. And then I have to sew up through this stitch to get to the 11/0 in the next stitch. So I'm just going through these beads in the stitch that I was just in, and now down into the 11/0 in the bottom of the next stitch. And it says continue working as in steps 1 and 2 to add fringe loops. Vary the position of the 8/0 or the 3 millimeter bicone in each fringe to add interest. So you're going to pick up your beads. So I'm going to pick up 3, or actually I'm going to pick up my 8/0 first, and then I'm going to pick up my 6 11/0s. And so you're just going to vary the same count of beads, but just vary where you put your 8/0 seed bead and your bicone crystal. So I have my 7 beads on here, and I'm going to go back through. And then I'm going to sew up through this stitch, the next stitch, until I get down into the bottom 11/0. And now I'm going to pick up 3 11/0s, a bicone crystal, and 3 11/0s, and I'll just change the position as I do this of my crystal or my 8/0, depending upon which one I'm picking up. And I'll continue doing this. Now I'll sew back up through my stitch, get over to the next 11/0, and continue doing this until I come to the same stitch from the edge on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the fringe, and then I will be back. Okay, so I have finished the fringe on the bottom here, as you can see. Then I ended my thread by sewing through and cutting it off. And then my tail thread, I extended it a little bit and sewed it back through all of the top beads, and then tied it off over here just to increase the tension and the curve on the necklace a little bit, because I didn't get quite enough. And so that's how I did it. Of course, you can just sew your tail through a little bit and cut it off if you have correct tension and have a nice curve. I just wanted to correct mine a little bit. So that's what I did. And so I've ended my tail, I've ended my working thread, and now it says to cut both pieces of chain, long and short length chain, in half. Trim any ends to ensure your 4 pieces of chain are equal lengths. And I have done that. I've cut both of my chains in half and measured them and made sure they were the same. And then you will get your jump rings and your clasp and connect them. So I will grab some flat nose and chain nose pliers. And I will open a jump ring. Just really tiny chains and tiny jump rings. So if I fumble a little bit, it's just because they're so tiny and fine wire. So get that. I'm going to open the jump ring. I'm going to pick up a piece of each type of chain and put it on the jump ring, like so. And then I'm going to put it on my loop here. I need to open this bigger. The jump ring is pretty small. And the 11 O's are kind of big, so let me do that. There we go, got it. And then I'll close the jump ring. If you don't know how to open and close jump rings, there are videos or that you can find, and they are listed. You can go to their website, and it's all listed in the book. There's all kinds of references to information that you may need to complete your project so that you can have a little bit more instruction if you need it. Now I am going to open another jump ring and put it on the other end of the chains. If I can, I'm just fumbling around here, but I'll get it. So I've opened this one. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to place my clasp on here. There we go. And then I will put on the clasp, close my jump ring, just open it from side to side and close it from side to side, and then I will put these two chains together and put it on this side, and then at the end there's one more jump ring that I will combine the two chains with, and that will also be the closing side of the clasp. So this is what you'll close your jump ring or your lobster claw clasp onto, evidently. That's what it looks like to me. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this side, and I will be right back. And there you have it. I've connected the chains, and as you can see, they're connected very well, and that's how that hangs. And I went ahead and put one bigger jump ring at the very end, just so for me it's difficult to clasp and unclasp a lobster claw on a little tiny ring. It's simply because my eyes aren't that great anymore, and my fingernails sometimes stop me. So I just went ahead and put one more bigger jump ring. Otherwise it would work just fine with the small jump ring that's in there. But that's one of the beauties of having a little kit. You can alter it any way you want, do whatever you need to do to customize it to yourself. At least that's what I've always done with everything, with any kind of pattern or design or anything. I customize it to make myself happy. So you can do that, of course. Or you can do it exactly like it was sent to do. That works great, and it's designed to work, so it does work. And this was easy to follow. I was able to follow all the instructions and do the project quite easily. So I think that the product is a nice product, and would recommend trying it out. I will put together the earrings and I will show them to you, and we'll be back in a few. Okay, so now I have put out the contents of the packages for the earrings, and we have 9 by 15 millimeter top drilled crystals here, and we have 4 millimeter glass pearls here, 2 of them, 3 millimeter fire polish beads, 2 of them here, 28 gauge wire here, earring findings here, and they say they're silver plated, nickel free, which is nice, especially for people like me that have metal allergies. And then fire line, of course we have that here with, and a beading needle size 12 here. So I am going to go ahead and thread my needle, and we'll get started on this. You're also going to need scissors, chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and flush wire cutters. So let me get everything situated and we'll get started. To start the earrings, it says on an 18-inch piece of thread, pick up 10 15 O seed beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then it says, sew through all the beads again to form a ring, leaving a 6-inch tail. So then I'm going to go back through the tail side here and sew through all of these beads. And pull this through. And then it says to sew through the first bead again. This will pull it into a circle. So I'm going to go through this very first 15 O. Let's get you closer because these are 15 O's. They're hard to see. And sorry for my discolored hands. It's from the fire line I've been working with. The smoke fire line. It kind of makes your hands funny. And there we go. Now it says sew through this forms bead. In round 2, pick up 2 15 O's and sew through the next 2. So we're going to pick up 2. We're going to go right into the next 2 beads and bring these 2 beads that we have down and lay them out like so. And then it says sew through all the, it says repeat the stitch 4 more times, step up through the first 15 O added in this round. So we're going to pick up 2 more, go through the next 2. Lay these out. This is a herringbone stitch, so you want these beads to lay out nice on top of there. And then we're going to pick up 2 more, go through the next 2, and then 2 more, and go through the next 2. And then 2 more, and go through the next 2 beads, and then we will step up. So that means we go through these 2 beads. We also need to go into the first bead of the 2 we put between the beads in our first round. So I'm just going to go through the 2 so you can see what I mean. So I'm just doing the same step. I'm going into 2 beads, pulling these 2 beads down, and lay them out properly here. You want them to lay with the holes out. So now to step up, I have to go into one of the first 2 beads that I added as I was putting them between the beads in my first round. So right there, the very first bead I put on, I will go through like so. Now let's see what it says next. I'm straightening out my beads, sorry guys, there we go. Now it says repeat this stitch 4 more times and step up through the first 15 O. So let's go ahead and using 15 O's, work a round of tubular herringbone stitch, stepping up after the round. So yes, basically the same thing. So pick up 2. I'm sorry, I don't usually do directions while I'm making a video, but since this is a kit, I have to, and it may seem a little rough, but so what I've done is I've just gone through the next 2. Then I will go over, I'll pick up 2, I'll go over into this bead here. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go over to this bead, go through. So I'm just putting beads on top of the beads that I put in my last round. First you have to sew from the bead of your previous round into the next set here, and then down into the next one, and then I'll go over into the bead, the first bead on my next set of 2 beads here, and I'll pick up 2 more. So this is just a herringbone stitch is what it is, circular, and then with 2 beads in between it. So then I will do the same thing. I'll bring down 2, skip over into my next set. You have to thread over before you add your beads, of course. Pick up 2, go into this bead and then the first bead of the next set. Pick up 2, and here we have to step up. So when you step up, instead of going into the next top bead, you'll go into the bead underneath, the next top bead. So I'm going to pull these down, and then as I thread over, instead of going through this top bead, I'm going to go into the bead right underneath it and the top bead, and that will be my step up, like so. But I don't want to get my tail in there, so let me pull that out. And now I have finished that round. So now, using 15 O's, work a round of tubular herringbone stitch, stepping up after the round. Snug up the beads, the beadwork to form a cup. So we're going to do that one more time. That's 1, 2, 3. Yep. So this is my 4th round. So same thing. I'm just going to do another round of herringbone. I'm going to bring down 2 beads, go over into my next stitch under the first bead, pick up 2 beads, go over to the next stitch, and I hope you can see this clearly. These are tiny beads. And I'm going to kind of pull as I do this to kind of snug this up a little bit. And then go into the next one. And then pick up 2 more and go into the next one. And then I need to step up. So I'm going to bring these down and I'm going to go into the second bead and up through the top bead on my last stack of herringbone here. And I'm going to pull this and snug it up. Of course, you can put this around something in the middle and kind of have a form too, like a pencil. It shows that in the book here, right there. But I don't usually do that when I do my herringbone, so I'm just going to pull it and kind of form my cup. And then it says, for round 5, work a herringbone stitch, pick up a 15-0, and sew through the next 15-0 in the previous round. Repeat these 2 stitches to complete the round and step up through the first 15-0. So basically what I have to do is I have to do a herringbone just like I've been doing it. Instead of going straight into the top bead to make my next stitch, I will pick up a 15-0 in between. So I'm going to go into this bead here with my 2 beads. Then I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and I'm going to go up through the next stack of herringbone, the top bead, and then pick up 2 15-0s and repeat the process. And again, I've got a bead that won't slide down, so let me fix that. People always say Miyuki is the best, it's the best, and it is. They are great beads, and most people love them, but I have more issues with them than I do with Toho, so I just had to say that, just had to get that out there. All right, so go through the next stitch, and then pick up a 15-0, go through the next top beads, and I will continue doing this all the way around, 2 beads, and then 1 bead, 2 beads, go down through the next one, and then 1 bead. Oops, it looks like I went through 2 beads there. Well, no, I didn't. It's okay. All right, up through the next one. Add my 2 beads on top of my herringbone stack. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. And then 1 bead, and up through 2 the beads here. Since this is my last stack, I have to step up, so I'm going to go down into 2 beads, like so, just like I've been doing. Now for round 6, work as in the previous round, but pick up 2 15-0s in between the herringbone stacks instead of 1. So I'll do the first one, then I'll do the rest of them off camera. This is getting to be a very long film. So I'm going to go through here with 2, and then I'm going to pick up 2. So I'm doing my herringbone stack with my 2 beads, then I'm picking up 2 beads, going through the next stack, picking up 2 beads, and continuing all the way around, doing the same stitch just with 2 beads in between each one. Okay, so I have finished that round. As you can see, it's turning into a nice little bead cap here. So we need to do round 7 now, which it says pick up a 15-0 and sew through the next 4 15-0s in the previous round. Your thread will be exiting the first 15-0 in the next herringbone stack. Repeat this stitch until you have completed the round. So I'll pick up 1. Let me get just a little closer. I'm going to pick up 1. I'm coming out of this stack here. I'm going to go into the next stack and then through the next 4 beads. So I have to go, let's go ahead and pull this one through. Of course, it's not going to go over my needle, so let me get another one. And I'm coming out here, so I'm going to go into this one. Then I'm going to go into the 2 beads in the middle, and then I'm going to go into the next top bead in my next stack of herringbone, like so. So I have 4 beads on my needle, basically. I'm going to pull this 1 bead down into the center of the stack of herringbone, right, like so. Now I'm in the next stack. I will pick up 1 bead, go into the next 4 beads. So the one in the stack I'm going through, and then the 2 in the middle that I just put on in the previous round, and then up through the next stack of herringbone and pull. and that finishes the stacks nicely. I'm going to go all the way around, and I will be back when I have finished that round. I have finished putting the single bead through each of the stacks of herringbone, and then I stepped up and came up through the first bead that I put on. And now it says to end the working thread and tail. So back through the last few rounds of beadwork, following the thread path of the stitch, tying 2 or 3 half-hitch knots. So basically, I will just sew back through a few of these beads, and then I'll grab a thread bridge and tie a knot, and then I'll sew through a few more. So here I'm going to tie a thread bridge knot, making sure my thread goes between my beads and not on top of them, like so. And I'll just continue sewing through a little bit more. It's difficult for me to see these little tiny beads. Sorry guys, I'm struggling a little here. And then into this one, and I'll just continue, and I'll tie off a few more times, and then I will be back. Okay, so I have tied off my working thread, I have cut off my tail thread, and now I have a nice little bead cap, as you can see. And it says for the next step to repeat, of course, to make the other bead cap. And then, using your flush cutters, cut a 4-inch piece of wire. I did that. And actually, I cut my first one. Let's see if this one's, it's a little longer than 4 inches. So I'll cut this one to 4 inches. And then it says, center the 9x15 crystal on the drop wire. So I'm going to put this through. And then it says bend both ends to meet bend both ends of wire to meet above the drop. So I'm going to just bend the wire like so. And then it says drop the bead cap over the crystal, over the wires, like so. And then it says to pick up the pearl and put it on. And push it down. Squeeze these wires together a little better. And then to pick up the 4mm fire polish, or the 3mm fire polish bead, excuse me, and drop it down. Then we're going to make a loop here. So it says to just bend it over with your straight nose pliers, but I use my round nose. Bend it over a portion where it's a couple millimeters space between my bead and my my wire here, the top of my wire, so I have a little space for my loop. I'm going to move up into the bend I just created, wrap this around my pliers, and then I'm going to grab a hold of my flat nose pliers and hold this. I've got thread on my pliers. And then I'm going to wrap this wire around both ends here. Hope I'm staying in camera. I have a little bit more of a space than I really needed there. Just wrap it around. You can use another pair of pliers. You can use your hands. It's pretty easy wire to manipulate. So I'm just going to wrap it. Well, that could have been a little neater. But I'm going to cut off the excess wire. And I could have wrapped that neater, but this video is getting long, so I'm just trying to hurry a little bit. And then on the directions it says to drop the ear wire in the loop before you turn it, but I always just open my ear wire and put it on the loop. Like so. And then close it. Then we're going to squeeze down my little excess wires here just to make sure they're not poking out. And then you have a cute little earring. I made the other one already and it's a little bit neater, so let me show it to you. Like so. And that's what your finished earrings look like, just like that. And the necklace here. And that's your nice little kit. Let me back off so you can see. And 2 nice little projects completely finished. I was able to follow the directions quite well. And I personally have issue with following directions usually. That's why I learned to design my own stuff. It's because I just don't like to follow directions. Sometimes they're confusing to me. So I learned how to do basic stitches and then make what I wanted from them. But I was able to follow this quite easily. I will say it's easier to follow any directions if you already know the stitches that you're going to be using. So if you get a kit, you may want to make sure that you follow some of the directions here that tell you where to go to look for the particular stitches. And it has hints and like here it has a tip. And then it'll tell you for more help making wire wrap loops, go to facetjewelry.com. So it tells you where to go if you need a little bit more direction on any of the stitches or the processes that you will use to create your pieces of jewelry. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and go to facetjewelrybox.com and get yourself a subscription. I think you'll enjoy it. Bye-bye.